Get ready to live fearlessly free with Heather Bunch.
Does fear often stop you at the threshold of your dreams? Do you ever wonder, what would courageous living actually look like if fear was not holding me back? What if producing the courage to live your dreams was only one action step away? What could that do for you? Welcome to Live Fearlessly Free podcast. I'm your courageous coach, Heather Bunch, and I am here to help you Christian women, solopreneurs, and entrepreneurs go from feeling stuck, not enough, and fearful to being able to take focused, confident, and courageous action. We are growing ourselves, my friend, so we can grow our businesses, so we can do what God has called us to do in this life, to live our courageous life. Now, we have been in a gigantic series of Your Courageous Life, and we have unpacked 3 secrets on how to live this courageous life. Real quick, number 1, delight in intimacy. Delight in an intimate relationship with your Heavenly Father. That's the foundation of a courageous life. That's it. Learning how to rest in His love, rest in His grace, and then we can rest in His presence. And we can work from that place of rest instead of stressing and striving. Number 2 was we learned to discover our true identity. Who are we really? Who has God designed us to be? Not this outer thing and all the masks that we put on over the years to try to keep ourselves safe. But who are we at our core? And we unpacked that, because once you know who you are, once you know what you're called to, now something comes up, and that is fear, my friends. And so we need secret number 3, and that is direct your imagination, direct it to work for you instead of against you. It literally is the most powerful thing that God has given us and designed us. We are made in His image. He thought a thing, He spoke a thing, it came into being. And He has given us this same power, but we have got to know how to use this power. Like, Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility. And so we have got to learn how to be responsible for that. Now, last time what we did is we actually unpacked the Philippians 4:8 framework. So we learned how to flip our mindset from fear to faith. Now, today we're going to be deep diving even further into this secret number 3, direct your imagination, by talking about what actually builds courage. Because in order to live the courageous life, we need some courage, right? And that is action. Not waiting to feel brave first, but moving while our knees are knocking and our voice is cracking. That is what the courageous life is all about. That is what courage is all about, because it's not the absence of fear, but it's doing the thing we're afraid to do anyway. So today's going to be for you. If fear keeps showing up and crashing your party and chasing away your dreams, this is the kind of party crasher we don't want, right? And if you're craving a no fluff way to turn fear into bold steps, I have got you, my friend. And if you're ready to take messy, faith-fueled action, even while fear is whispering, what if? You're in the right place. Now, I have been unpacking different fears I've had, different struggles I've had, because fear had a hold of me for decades. I did not know how to direct my imagination to work for me. I knew really well how to get my imagination to work against me. Now, what's funny is, when it comes to courage, I never saw myself as a brave person. I would look at movies and I saw bravery as the hero. They're the ones that are like, I didn't know I had it in me. Or they're the ones that were born like brave coming out of the womb. I swear my brother was like that. He would just do whatever crazy thing, or he would take action. He just did the thing. Whatever he did, it was 110, 20, 30, 40, 200%. Like, that's how he did it. I did not live life like that. I lived life in a cocoon, afraid of what would happen. And it's funny. I remember there was something I wanted so bad, and it was horses. I loved horses growing up. I still love horses. They're just not in my budget right now, but they will be one day. And I remember my friend and I, we were just these horse crazy kids. And we were like, oh my gosh, I got this great idea. We don't have the money for lessons, but you know what we could do? We could go work for a stable, and then maybe they'll give us some lessons, in exchange. We're 11 years old, so we can't get a real job, right? So maybe it's, work for the stable in exchange for lessons. Then we get to be around horses all the time. It would be amazing. And so we get that idea. We pull out the phone book, because this was back in the day. There was the Yellow Pages. Anybody remember the Yellow Pages besides me? All right. So if you're in my age bracket, you're going to remember the Yellow Pages. We pulled it out because it was big and flipped through to the stables section. And so we found this one stable, Oak Ridge Stables. And so we start there. And it wasn't that far from the house. And so my friend's like, okay, you call. And I was like, me call? Why am I calling? You're the brave one. Like, she was the one that was, the leader of the group. Okay. I was not the leader. I was a really good follower, I'm just going to say. And so somehow I was just like, okay, I don't know if I wanted it bad enough or what, but I picked up the phone. I dialed that number. And then I sat and waited. Ooh, do you ever do that? You're on the phone and you're waiting and you're kind of hoping it goes to voicemail because you don't want to have that conversation. That was one of these moments. And so I am sitting there waiting, and somebody picks up the phone, and she's got this very heavy French accent. And so I'm kind of struggling to understand what she says, but I'm like, I love French. This is so beautiful. And so I muster out what I'm trying to do. Me and my friend really love horses, and we would love to be able to get a job at the stable in exchange for lessons. And I'm sure it didn't come out quite that pretty. I'm just going to say, but I fumbled my way through it. And then to my surprise, she says this. She says, let me get the owner, Christine. And so she gets the owner. Christine Souvignon was her last name. Eve and Christine Souvignon, those were the owners, so husband and wife team. And Christine gets on the phone, and she was so gracious and so nice. And she said, listen, she said, why don't you come to the stable, bring your mom, come to the stable, and we'll have a conversation. And so I talked my mom into this. And so my mom goes with me to the stable, and we have a conversation. And so she walks us around the stable, and we get the tour, and I am just in awe. I am like mouth drooling, watering. I am a kid in the candy store, the most gorgeous horses everywhere, people in the arena riding, and it was just like, looked like the Lipizan stallions, just like because we did English, it was dressage and jumping and cross country, and it was beautiful. And she says this, she says, look, because I have zero experience, by the way. I didn't grow up with horses. I didn't grow up on a farm. I didn't even have, the proverbial aunt with a horse. And so, but she was so nice. And she's like, listen, if you go through this camp and, then you'll get, like the basics of horses and things. And then I will let you, do work for lessons. And so I needed to go through the camp first, and but it cost money, and my mom wasn't just going to fork out the money. And honestly, we didn't even have it at the time, because at that age my parents would have just been getting back together. Maybe I was 11. So it was right at the end of when my parents were separated. And so we went through a lot of financial woes during that time period. And so, but what she did do is she said, Heather, I've got some cookbooks and some flashlights. I don't even remember why she was selling them. It was kind of like network marketing back in the day, I think is what it was. So it was this giant, full color, hardback cookbook, and this flashlight that could do like everything, including like, disco lights to say, hey, I'm stuck on the side of the road. Please help me. And so I had these flashlights and these cookbooks, and I went around the neighborhood selling cookbooks and flashlights. Oh, let me tell you, that was so scary. Going to the door, asking strangers at 11, I'm trying to raise money to go to a horse camp, and, would you buy a flashlight or a cookbook? And I did it. And I was terrified the entire time, but I did it. And I raised some money. One of my grandpas also helped me. He saw the work I was doing and actually like trying to raise my own money. And so he actually matched me and gave me some money as well. And I was able to go to that camp, and that opened the door for me to be able to begin to take lessons and just to literally live my dream of being around horses and learning about horses. And it's still one of the beautiful passions that I have. And I just love horses, and I learned so much from them and learned so much about myself and discovering myself and learning things about God and just enjoying living the dream. But none of that would have happened had I listened to the fear that said, Heather, don't answer the phone, hang up. What are you doing? I can't believe that you're trying to, say they're not going to hire you. You have no experience. What the heck are you doing? But even in that moment when I was terrified, I did it anyways. I did it afraid. And what I didn't realize as a little kid that I do now is that was courage. That was faith in motion. Did I have fear? 100% yes. Knees knocking. My voice was literally cracking. I fumbled over my words, terrified. But I took the action steps anyways. That courage, I literally generated courage. And we all have fear. And fear, its whole job is just trying to keep us safe. It's trying to keep us, from having to experience that so uncomfortableness of the awkward conversations, the looking stupid, what if you might fail? That's what it's doing. And here's the thing. Fear kicks off in our brain first. It literally 100% starts in our brain, which is why something that freaks me out may not even faze you. You might get on the phone, no problem. I literally have had a fear of the phone since back then, and I have to push myself through it. But what's beautiful is that we can learn about fear and learn about courage and actually how to activate courage so we can break through the fear. There is a neuroscientist, Andrew Huberman, and he works in Stanford. He's a research scientist, and he is the one that I learned. He talks about fear starts 100% in the brain. But then he says, look, fear doesn't stay there, though. Fear actually trickles down and starts to reside in our body. It's a physiological response. That's why your voice could crack. That's why you could start sweating. When I was fainting and my face was getting hot and my whole body went flush, and then I fainted. That's a physiological response. So even though the fear started here, like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? I can't believe you're actually going to make that phone call. That's crazy. It shifted into the body. Once fear sets up shop in our body, then we have one of 4 responses that happen. Now, Andrew Huberman talks about 3 responses. Other scientists have added a fourth response. So I'm going to go ahead and add that fourth response in there. So we just got all this stuff covered. But here's what happens. We go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Now, fight. The fight response is we actually move towards the threat, the thing we're afraid of. We actually move towards it like aggressive. This is like the people that go into attack mode, okay? Like, you know, fists up. I actually was listening. Oh my gosh. I was listening to the radio this morning and they were talking about this woman who got into this heated argument about somebody cut somebody off. They stop, they get out of the car. They're, you know, she's going at it with this woman. And then she actually, I'm not kidding, pooped on this woman's car. Like got on the hood of the car and pooped on the car. That would be a fight response, okay? She was aggressive towards this threat. Then there's the flight response. That is the runaway response. Run away, run away. Like, sorry, that was from, sorry, my brain went blank. All right, anyways, run away like the wind. So that it'll come to me, that movie that it gets. So if you know the name of the movie, let me know, but I promise it'll come back to me. But a flight response is to run, to move away from the threat. Then you have the freeze response. That is paralyzed indecision. You're literally going between freeze and flight and freeze and flight, and you get into the overthinking. That was me in those fainting moments where it was like, I want to do this thing. Oh my gosh, I don't want to do this thing. It was back and forth. Do I do it? Do I not? And you're freaking out. And then you freeze and you're like, I don't know what to do. Then there's fawn. Now, fawn is people pleasing the threat away. This response is like, you're going to like work the system to try to people please the threat away. Okay. That's what fawning is. It's people pleasing. Now, here's the cool part. So Huberman talks about when you physically move forward while you're feeling fear, okay, you actually flip on what's called the courageous circuit. So there is literally a neurocircuit in our mind that gets flipped on when we move towards the fear, even when we're afraid. The courageous circuit, it's a little light switch that turns on, and it gives us that boost to really lean in, to take the step, to keep showing up. And it lets our brain know, hey, it's okay. We're going to do this anyways. I know you're afraid, but we got this. So we need to flip on this courageous circuit in order to push past the fear, in order to not allow the fear to cause us to run away from the response or get into overthinking, procrastination, people pleasing, away the threat, but actually do the thing we're called to do anyway. So how do we flip on this courageous circuit? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So there are 3 ways, action-packed ways, that you can move forward with God, even when fear tries to throw you off course, my friend. So lesson number 1 is this: courage takes movement. Action actually disrupts the fear, and fast action actually disrupts the fear faster before fear has a chance to take a giant hold on you. Like, have you ever been afraid of something? You're like, oh my gosh, I need to do that. And you waited and you waited and you waited, and then you got more scared and you got more scared. If you actually flip that on its head and you go into fast action, you can actually flip on the courageous circuit faster and get into action and move past that fear even quicker. I love Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins actually has a whole entire book on this called the 5-second rule. And so one of the fastest ways to get into action is to use this 5-second rule. And it's literally a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So when you know you need to do something, like make a phone call, Heather, get on the phone, okay? Make the phone call. What do? And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't really feel like doing that. It's really uncomfortable. I just actually had to do this myself. And I did my first official launch for the Courageous Club. I had my founding members, but I opened it up for new members. And I did a special card campaign, and I needed to do some follow-up. And that was scaring the bejesus out of me. And so what did I do? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, send the text. Boom, send the text. Boom, send the text. Boom, send the text. And so I got myself into quick action because I short-circuited the part of my brain that would go into logic and go, oh, Heather, you don't want to text those people. You know what? They might be busy. This might not be a good time. But I did it anyways. So when you take action, you fire up the courageous circuit. That forward motion turns on your courageous circuit. Even tiny steps. The text. One little text at a time. I literally was signaling to my brain, Heather, you're doing this thing. You're doing the launch. And you've got this. Doesn't matter if they say no. You just need to do the action. And see, that's the thing. Usually we're hung up on, I've got to have this certain outcome. No, you don't. You just need to take the action anyways. Courage doesn't wait for fear to leave the room. It walks in anyways. Whether it feels confident or not, it doesn't matter. James 2:17 reminds us, you know what? Faith without works, dead. Faith without works is dead. Courage is faith in motion. When you are taking the action steps, you are in faith that you're doing the thing that God called you to do anyways, even though you're afraid. Science even talks about taking even small courageous steps. It doesn't necessarily stop fear, but what it does do, it gives your brain a dopamine hit. Yeah, the dopamine hit. You know, that hormone that goes, woohoo, we did it, chemical that boosts your motivation. And it's literally rewiring your brain for more brave, courageous movement. So every time you do something that you're afraid of, when you take action and you do that, you're giving yourself a little dopamine hit. And it boosts you and makes you want to go, oh, let's do that again. You know, we get the dopamine hit when we get on the phones and say we're playing a game or we're scrolling through social media. But my friend, you can get the dopamine hit every time you do something courageous. Isn't that awesome? You don't have to be numbing out. Literally, by taking action and doing the thing you're afraid of anyways, you get the dopamine hit. Did you ever see people that are like terrified of doing something like skydiving? My husband actually did skydiving once with, we have a trusted friend, Sean Hutto, skydived thousands of times. It was even in a world record. And so I'm like, all right, if you're going to skydive, I trust you, you're going to tandem with Sean and you're going to be good. And I can remember, even though like it's scary, like jumping out of a plane, thousands and thousands of miles in the air, you don't know what's going to happen. But I can remember when Bob got done and he was like, woo, that was amazing. Like, let's do it again. That's the dopamine hit. And so people will do more challenges and challenges, someone that does their first marathon and then now that they're like a junkie with it, right? This is the yes, I did it moment. Even if you're sweating bullets, do it afraid and you're going to get that dopamine hit, my friend. And remember, action disrupts fear. Take the courageous movement. Number 2 is this. Courage is practice. You got to practice it. Consistency builds confidence. Courage is like a muscle. The more you work it, the stronger it gets. Galatians 6:9 reminds us, let us not lose heart in doing good, but in due time, you will reap a harvest if you don't grow weary. So science talks about repeating brave behaviors actually builds resilience and reinforces our brain's courageous circuits and creates more confidence in us. The more you do it, remember, the more dopamine you get. But here's what's cool. The more you do the same thing afraid, you will actually become desensitized to that particular fear. The more I get on the phone, the more follow-up I did going back to the launch, and I was sending the text and I was having the conversations, the easier it got. And then it was like, oh, no big deal. Oh, I need to send the text. Oh, I need a message. Oh, I need to follow up. Oh, no biggie. I was desensitizing myself, and I was growing more confident as I did it. Courage is practiced. You got to do it over and over and over again. Were any of you ever afraid of the dark when you were a kid? I know I was. There was all kind of creepy stuff that happened in our house that caused me to be afraid of the dark. But, you know, I used to be afraid of walking in a dark room. And I can remember how I would actually purposefully walk in a dark room to go get something and walk out. And I would do that over and over and over again. And eventually, you know, to this day, it does not scare me to walk into a dark room. Now, if I'm going to walk into an unknown dark room in some kind of creepy laboratory or old factory, that's another story. But if I'm walking in my house and I'm walking in the dark and I'm familiar with it, I'm not afraid anymore. Courage works the same way. So think about something you used to do that made you have that feeling of, you know, you wanted to hide under the blanket. But now it's just like, you know, it's a part of your Tuesday, right? That's courage practiced. So courage is practice. This confidence is built through consistency. And number 3, courage is partnering with God. Listen, my friend, you are not doing this alone. That's the best part. God has not called us to do this alone. We're called to do it with people. But most importantly, we're called to do it with Him. We do not have to muster courage on our own. He has got us. He is our ultimate partner. I love Joshua. Joshua had to follow in the footsteps of Moses. And you know what? He was terrified because there was multiple times, including Deuteronomy 31:6. And God came to him and said, be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. He's reminding Joshua, look, you're not flying solo, because he says this, for the Lord your God is the one who is going with you. You are not doing this alone. You are not flying solo. Han Solo had Chewbacca with him, right? Father God is with you, and you and your body know it. Rest in that. Rest in that. Remind yourself of that. Walk in that truth. Have you ever done anything that was bigger than you? Yeah. And somehow you strangely felt calm because you knew God had you. I had one of those moments. I've had other one of those moments, but the biggest one I can remember is when, in my first marriage, I had a rough, bad first marriage that I never should have got into in the first place because I was just happy somebody liked me. My self-esteem was that low. I was that person, but I learned from it. I had 2 miscarriages in that marriage, and so when I married Bob, we waited about 3 years to have kids, and so here I am. I'm pregnant with our firstborn son, Evan. Of course, we didn't know he was a boy at the time, but I'm pregnant and I'm about 9 weeks in. Now, that was around the time, 8 to 10 weeks was the time when I lost the other 2 kids. And I get a call from the doctor, and he's like, hey, and you know what's funny? It wasn't even my doctor. It was one of the doctors he was the main doctor in the practice. And so he's like, hey, and hang on, this is 7 o'clock at night. This is not normal for a doctor to call you at 7 o'clock at night. He says, hey, I got the blood work back. And he goes, I'm calling in a prescription. I want you to go pick it up tonight. And then tomorrow morning, I want you to call the office, set up an appointment for an ultrasound that day. Okay. And then if everything's okay, then we'll talk. Isn't that such good bedside manners? God, God love him. God does love him, but I'm going to be honest, I don't. And I was terrified in that moment. Like there was that immediate like, oh my gosh, it's 9 weeks. I'm that same time frame along. I've already lost 2 kids. And I stopped myself in that moment. And I reminded myself of my father. I reminded myself of a truth about the fruit of your womb is blessed. That scripture came up to me. And so I started speaking in that moment. No, my baby is happy and healthy. Happy and healthy. I just spoke that. Happy and healthy. And so I shared with Bob what was going on. We prayed, and I just continued to speak. This baby is happy and healthy. This baby is happy and healthy. And I'm going to tell you, it was not easy. It wasn't like just an immediate switch that came on that was like, everything's just going to be okay, people. Like, no, it was scary. And so I had to sleep through the night, got up in the morning, made the phone call. They couldn't get me until 2. So I had to go to work, and I just kept speaking, this baby is happy and healthy. And it was scary. Like, I had a hard time eating lunch. Like, you got the butterflies, and you're like, no. So, but every time the fear came up, I reminded myself, the fruit of my womb is blessed. I am healed, whole, and healthy. This baby is happy and healthy. Like I literally just over and over and over again and reminded myself of the promises of God. Yes, I know I lost babies before, but I spoke over this baby over and over again. And so I just created this atmosphere of faith. Okay. And Bob and I go in to the ultrasound, and you got to put on the plastic paper bed sheets, and we're getting ready, and we're sitting there waiting for the ultrasound tech. And I'm going to be like, you know what? This is going to be okay. And so I just joked around with Bob, and I just had fun, and we had conversation while we were waiting. And I can remember when that ultrasound tech came in, super nice. We got started, and there was this moment where I sat there and had my head turned away from the ultrasound screen, which was over here, and my eyes closed, because every time I found out I'd lost a baby, it was staring at an ultrasound screen. And I said, no. I said, I'm going to look at that screen. And so I turn my head and I look at that screen. And then I hear it. Ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. I see that little peanut, that little 9-week-old peanut, and I can see the heartbeat, and I hear the heartbeat. And in that moment, it was just gratitude. Thank you, Father, for my happy, healthy baby. And I'm going to tell you what, that, my friends, is faith-fueled courage. I was scared. I was worried. I had all the fears. I'd been through this before, and it hadn't gone well. But I continued to walk in faith. You do not do this alone. God gave me strength that I didn't know I had in that moment to turn and look at that screen and believe God that everything was going to be okay. And you know what? Sometimes you might turn and look at that screen and everything's not okay. But here's the deal. Father's still with you and is going to strengthen you and help you through it. Because that's still faith-fueled courage. Because there was 2 other times I looked at the screen and it wasn't okay. But I picked myself up and I kept going. You, my friends, are called to something beautiful and incredible. A courageous life. A beautiful, incredible life that God is calling you to. But it's going to take courage. And you have got to activate it through action. So let's recap. Courage takes movement. Action disrupts fear, my friend. Courage starts with movement, moving, doing, acting, because every brave step gives your brain that you did it. Dopamine boost. Take advantage of that. Number 2, courage is practice. Consistency builds confidence. Repetition builds your confidence muscle, and it makes courage easier and easier over time. Remember, you actually get desensitized to that fear the more you do it. And number 3, most important, courage is partnering with God. You are not doing this alone. Faith-filled, fueled courage, my friend. God is with you every step of the way. Be strong and courageous. You are not doing this alone. He is guiding you. He is strengthening you. He is helping you. He's bringing other people around you to help you as well. Courageous action time. Courageous action time. Does this not even have even more meaning, right? Because we are not just hearers of the word. We hearers of the word. We are doers of the word. So it is time to take one bold, messy, imperfect step, because that is the way it's done, my friend. That is how you turn on that courage circuit. And so you have got to put this into practice. So step 1, I want you to name one fear, one thing that you are afraid to do, one thing that is holding you back. Maybe it's the phone call. Maybe it's sending the email. Maybe it's launching a campaign. Maybe it's asking for help. Whatever it is, name it. Step 2, I want you to break it down into tiny doable steps. Now listen, don't sit there and spend an entire day breaking it down into tiny doable steps and you're going to map it all out and you have this perfect action plan. No, just get the next step. What is the one thing you can do right now to move forward? Is it that text, the call, one sentence of your new book that you've been writing? Whatever it is to get momentum going. Then, step 3, pray. I want you to breathe. Move. Do it scared and do it today. In fact, do it right now. Literally right now. Pause this video, do the step, and do it afraid. And as you do that, you are lighting up that courageous circuit, my friend. And you're going to get those little dopamine hits. You're going to desensitize yourself to the fear. And you are going to have this faith-fueled courage to live your courageous life. All right, my friends. We're going to start a new series next week. And it's going to be good. But here's the thing. Whatever we do, whatever we're talking about growing ourselves so we can do the thing that God has called us to do. I want to let you know that you have got this and Father's got you. Thank you a bunch for listening or for watching. Until next time, live fearlessly free because you're doing it through action, my friend.